Welcome back to Get Down to Business, the show all about small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship. This is an important conversation. The corporate landscape is littered with companies whose leaders make, frankly, the wrong decisions. Just turn on your TV to see that. My next guest is the author of Create the Future, Powerful Decision-Making Tools for Your Company and Yourself. And that was written by corporate leader, board member, and keynote speaker Rick Williams, who provides a guidebook for leaders who want to turn their leadership team into a powerful, creative engine, imagining where an organization can go, defining the best options, and developing a concrete plan for getting there. Once again, Rick is an internationally published author, frequent speaker on best practices in leadership and decision-making, and absolutely thrilled to have Rick Williams join the program. Thanks so much for jumping on Get Down to Business.
Well, thanks. I'm glad to be here.
Absolutely. This is an important conversation, as I mentioned in the intro. You talk a lot, Rick, about the importance of leaders being able to make good decisions. What are some of the biggest challenges that leaders face when making decisions and choices for their organizations?
You know, decision-making may seem like a simple thing that we do because we make decisions every single day. What I'm hoping through my new book, Create the Future, is to give leaders who are facing a really important decision that will have a major impact on where their organization goes. And it could be a corporation or a nonprofit or a government agency. But anyway, if you're faced with a great opportunity or perhaps a very major challenge, how do you actually go through the process of making decisions? I mean, what we do instinctively, and that's sort of the way we as humans are built, is to say, oh my gosh, what am I going to do quickly and make a quick decision? And often the first decisions we make are either wrong or based on incomplete information. And so what I've really done through this book is lay out in a structured way how when you're faced with a really important challenge and opportunity, how do you actually go about making the decisions as opposed to instinctively, what are the steps you and hopefully your leadership team can do? That's what the book is really about.
Absolutely. And in your book, Create the Future, you outline a 5-step process for leaders to follow. We won't have time to go in detail through each of these steps, and I want to make sure our listeners will buy the book. But can you tell us overall what that process looks like?
Well, I'm going to make two sort of off the top recommendations. One is, we as leaders, our responsibility is to make a decision. I'm actually recommending that while you are ultimately responsible for making decisions, if you can engage with your core leadership team or your board of directors or even some close personal advisors, talk to them about their experience in dealing with similar situations and get voices outside of just your own. And then secondly, what I recommend as a starting point is to think about what you really want to achieve. What would success look like? Use that as a way of crystallizing your own thinking about, okay, if I really am successful at this, what do I hope to accomplish? Or I'm dealing with this threat. What does success look like if I do actually deal with the threat? So those are starting points for my approach to how you deal with this.
Absolutely. And collaboration is mentioned as a key factor in successful decision making. How does Create the Future encourage leaders to collaborate with their teams?
Yeah, so thank you for bringing that up because too often, I'm going to say leadership of any organization in many ways is a lonely job because, you have to make some separation between yourself and the others around you in order to think about the interests of the overall organization and then to make plans and decisions on behalf of the organization, perhaps the shareholders. What I'm recommending is that, yes, you have to make ultimately decisions, but you will make better decisions if you're open to hearing other points of view, testing your ideas with others that you trust, learning from the experience of others of how they've dealt with similar situations. It could be peers in other companies, other company leaders or CEOs. How did they deal with similar situations? Your situation will be different, but when I do that, I learn from listening to others and how they have dealt with these from their own experiences and then apply those lessons to what I'm going through at the time.
Absolutely. Again, I am chatting with the author of Create the Future, Powerful Decision-Making Tools for Your Company and Yourself. That's Rick Williams. And we're going to have to cut to a break in just a moment and then come back to Rick. But you also talk about aligning decisions within organizations, goals, risks, tolerance, and values. Can you just provide a quick example of how a leader might use this approach in a real-world scenario?
Well, I'm going to pick out two elements of this. One is your risk profile, and second is your values. Just very briefly, we make assumptions about how much risk we're willing to take all the time. Are we as an organization trying to just keep going and not take any risk, hold on to what we have? Or do we have an opportunity that might be a moonshot? We're willing to take a lot of risk and failure might be okay. So understand where you are in the risk profile. And then with values, we make decisions incorporating values all the time. And make sure you really understand the values you want expressed by the decisions you're making. Values that represent the culture of the organization, the values that the company wants to expressed to its outside people. Think what Boeing's going through right now. Think about Ben and Jerry's as a values-based company. Those are companies, but every single company has values that you as the leader want to nurture, express through the decisions you make.
Absolutely. I'm chatting with Rick Williams. We're chatting all about decision making. We've talked about collaboration, and I've got a lot more advice that I want to squeeze out from Rick in our remaining few minutes in our conversation. So don't touch that dial. You're listening to Get Down to Business. And again, we're going to be right back. Don't touch that dial. Hey, welcome back. As always, you can check out all of our guests on the program on my website, syklein.com, or on your favorite podcast app. Search for Get Down to Business. And I'm continuing my conversation with the author of Create the Future, Powerful Decision-Making Tools for Your Company and Yourself. And that's corporate leader, board member, and keynote speaker, Rick Williams. Rick, welcome back. Thank you for all of the advice you've been sharing on the program so far. We've been chatting about the 5-step process that you talk about in Create the Future for leaders to follow. And beyond the 5 steps, Rick, I have to ask, are there any other bits of advice that you give to leaders who want to improve their decision-making abilities?
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier that I think an important starting point is to think about what success would look like. So you're establishing a goal, a conceptual understanding of success, and then goals, measurable goals. After that, what I'm recommending, and this is really, it's not just my recommending, but if you're engaging an expensive outside consulting organization, this is what they will be taking you through. Get your leadership team, your key leadership team and advisors, perhaps some outside advisors together, and make them into a creative powerhouse for your organization. Engage them with coming up with defining what the problem is, helping you define success, but then what are really the options you have if you have a new product or a new market opportunity that you think the company could exploit. What really is the best way to do that will have the most capture the most value for the company? Or if you're facing a threat, what are the steps you could take that will most mitigate the threat, the danger, and the downsides for that? So the core idea is engage with key advisors in your leadership team and make them into a creative powerhouse. Give them permission to share their understanding, their learnings, their ideas. Get them on the whiteboard. Get them in a room where they can talk and put all the titles away and say, what really can we come up with that will be creative? And you've got to give them permission to be creative. That's essential. You're not there to pontificate about how much you know or what you think. You're there to listen. That is a core way of getting inputs, getting your team to be a contributor to the overall process of your own decision making. That is a core takeaway I hope people will take from the book.
Absolutely. Well, Rick, I've enjoyed the conversation. We're coming close to the end of our time together. And I, of course, want to make sure our listeners can find the book and get in touch with you. And just in conclusion, I have to ask, you have a background in physics and worked with real estate development. Very briefly, 30 seconds or less, how have these experiences shaped your approach to leadership and decision making? And if you can conclude, of course, by how people can find the book.
Yeah, so my original training was as a physicist. I worked with the high tech space and defense industry initially, and then went to business school, Harvard Business School, and then went into consulting. That's sort of the shorthand of my career, and then founded a company. So I come to all of this with a belief that yes, things can work. We as leaders can create the future by the decisions we make. We do create the future by the decisions we make. And it's my belief that as you as a leader have to communicate a vision of hope and promise to your team as the leader of the organization. Create the Future is the name of the book. If you go to rickwilliamsleadership.com, you'll get to see more about me and about the book and an opportunity to buy it. And you can get it on Amazon, obviously. Create the Future is on Amazon.
Of course, everything's on Amazon. Well, we'll link in our show notes as well. Rick Williams, thanks so much for joining us on the program. What an inspiration. And throughout the program, we've had some amazing guests, and we'll link in our show notes, which of course is posted at syklein.com or on your favorite podcast app. Don't miss a single episode. Subscribe, rate, review, and share so you don't miss any of our conversations on Get Down to Business. Once again, syklein.com. To success, let's get down to business. We'll see you next Sunday right here on AM 560 The Answer, wherever podcasts can be found.